Hi, Lucy, and welcome to the Thrive in Life and Business podcast. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I can't wait to delve in.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So, would you mind by just starting by giving our listeners a little intro into you, who you are, and what you do, please?
Yeah, of course, no problem. So I'm Lucy Shrimpton. I'm the founder of an international sleep consulting brand called the Sleep Nanny, which has been, about 12 years in the making now. And my natural evolution from that, because it's a franchise, I spend more time coaching and supporting business owners who are also, wanting to create a life they love. And that's where my passion and energy has been for the last at least 7 or 8 years now. So I created Born to Be Brilliant to serve more people in that space. So I now look after high performers who have great businesses, who are really ambitious and just get stuck spinning their wheels or making all the money but feeling rubbish in themselves, all of those kind of things. So, yeah, really, I'm all about high performer, inspiration, and well-being.
I love that. And was that a conscious decision then to shift from your original business and then shifting into franchising that? Was that always the plan and then to go into another kind of service-based business?
That's a really interesting question, actually. I wouldn't say it was always the plan, but it's funny how when you look back, you see little clues and go, oh, I obviously was thinking along those lines. So actually, I've turned it into a franchise in 2023. And when I was preparing to do that, I found I had notes from 2015 where I was mapping out the franchise model back then.
Oh, wow.
Um, and back then, I now realise why. So obviously hindsight, I now realise that in 2015, the world of franchise looked quite different. It was much more typical classic bricks and mortar franchises. And do remember conversations I had about it with professionals at the time. It sounded so huge and scary and daunting and costly. And my business was really still quite new. And I thought, wow, this is too big. I can't do that model. And I decided to go down the license route at that point because I knew I couldn't just keep helping families one by myself, and I needed a scalable model. So I thought, right, I'll go down the license route and I'll train other people that way. And I did that. And it shifted it even from license to just certification. I was like, I'm going to keep this really, really simple. That was great for probably 7 years. And we trained about 300 people in 23 countries around the world, and all was great and all was going well until it wasn't. And a few things happened in that time for me. One was marketplace shifting. I think we very rapidly went through what I call the information age, where information products, information, everything. It was huge for a while. But I think it's shifted. I think it has moved again. I also felt like after training about 300 people and seeing how many were thriving and how many were not, when people buy a course online, most people don't complete it. That's a really sad fact, but most people don't. Only a small proportion do. And of the small proportion that would complete it, and by the way, it's now 2025, nearly the end of, and we still have people that haven't completed that, and we shut it down in 2023. So it is crazy how many people don't complete things. That made me sad, but that's not, that wasn't my I guess problem because they came with the best intentions and I wanted them to. But it was the ones who were completing it, and of them, not everyone had the thriving business I hoped they would have. And I really wish they did. And it would frustrate me to see people just not do so well. So I wanted to get more hands-on and be able to go, well, how do I actually get them to have a great business? So I thought franchising would be the answer. I thought, well, if it's a franchise, they stay with us. We have more control because that's the whole point of a franchise. We're part of one brand. We can build bigger and better together. So, no, I wouldn't say it was always the vision. There was definitely something there in terms of where we go and how we scale. But it was actually through many years of learning, testing, seeing what worked, looking at where the pain points come in that helped me really refine and go, this must be the model. I think this is the way forward. But even now, I'm like, I don't know, is it, isn't it? Because you can't even make franchisees do the things you want them to do. So who knows? But it's certainly the best model so far.
Love that. There's such an important conversation. I literally had a conversation with one of my one-to-one clients at the start of the week about this. So she's a relatively new coach. She's been in the industry about 2 years now, and she's just launched a membership. And she launched
Mhm.
it about 3 months ago, and she had an incredible number of people go in. And in that first month, there was this momentum. Everybody was taking action. They were showing up. They were going to the calls. They were posting in the group. And she's 3 months in, and she's like half the people are on the calls that were on the calls in month one. People aren't
Mhm.
engaging in the group anymore. She was like, is it something I've done? And I was like, no, that's just kind of what happens. And you've got to be able to make sure, I think, that you know that you're doing all that you possibly can. You know you're creating the content in that membership that is really going to help them get where they want to go. And then you've just got to trust that they're on their journey, they're on their path, they're doing it at their speed, at their trajectory, at the level that they are wanting to engage with it. And I think that's such an important reminder that kind of as coaches, as consultants, as leaders, as mentors, as service providers, we can only do a certain amount. We then have to rely on our clients to actually do the work and show up and hold themselves accountable. I think that's such an important conversation for people to kind of listen to because I think so many people have that experience and then question themselves or doubt
Yeah.
themselves because they don't have all the people on the live call.
I think that's so true. And I've seen that in other people's groups, masterminds, memberships, where the show up rate or the participation has dwindled. And I think it's not the coach's fault. And to some extent, we feel really responsible. We feel like, well, yes, but it's my job to make sure that I get people here and congregate them. And it's hard work because life happens, people are distracted. But I think this is where it is about we are now in a digital age and we know attention spans have been getting smaller and smaller and smaller over time anyway as just human beings, but there's so much noise now. We're wearing it, we're carrying it, we're wearing it, it's everywhere, it's constant. If we haven't got an AirPod in listening to something as we walk, we consume, something's vibrating on our wrists, like constant. So I think for people to come to these things now, it's actually harder than ever to get people to come to things. There's always something else, there's always other noise, and to have that quiet time to I think it is harder. And I think the same goes for like course completion, taking a course on, I'll do that, I will, best intentions, I've done it. The amount of unfinished courses I've bought, I'm not immune to this stuff. I'm exactly the same because I'll go, the intention's good, but this other thing is more important or more urgent, and I'll get there. I'll get there. So it's really, really difficult. But at no point do I ever blame the person who I bought the course from because they actually provided me exactly what they said they would, and I've still got access to it. And when I get around to it, I'll look at it. So it's not their fault. But I do think it is difficult. I agree, and I think that the my vision for this age and going forward is in far more connection and communication, and that can take on many guises. But I think that that connection, communication, is what people want, and in quick and easy, accessible means. Otherwise, it's so hard to deliver something of quality.
Yeah. I think it's so important, you've touched on it a couple of times, and it's so relevant, I think, for now, is that we are in this age and this era of massive consumption, like almost over information. And I remember a couple of months ago, my brain had just taken on so much. Like I've learned so much, I've worked with so many coaches, I've done so many programs, I've done programs on, content and I'm constantly investing in myself with coaches and mentors. And I just got to this place earlier in this year where I was like, I consumed so much that it's almost paralyzing me. And
Yeah.
admittedly, my headspace wasn't in a good place back then anyway, but it was almost like there's so many ways. And I'm like, well, what's the way? And I get it because I teach people content, I teach people marketing, I teach people sales and launching. And again, there's a billion ways and they all get to work. But for me, I think kind of the middle of this year, around kind of June, July time, I thought I'm just going to take the pressure off of all of it and I'm just going to start showing up. And I'm just going to start posting every single day on Instagram again, because that's where I get most of my clients. It's like my biggest platform. And I just thought, I'm just going to take the pressure off. And actually, just getting visible again, I think has been massive and just got me in front of more people again. But I've taken the strategy out of it. The
Mm.
give value 3 times a week and share a case study once a week and share a story once a week. I was like,
Yeah.
it just felt so rigid for me. And I was like, right, let's just take the pressure off and have fun with it. And that was quite freeing, actually.
I bet, and I think what you've done there as well is you've leaned into what feels good for you.
Yeah.
You know that actually that's I won't say it's always easy for you. Like I'm sure that there are times when you're like, oh, actually, this feels difficult today. But you know that it's something that's doable. It's just do that. Just do that one thing and do that consistently. And actually, I think in life generally, if we just do one thing consistently, it's the compound effect, isn't it? It gets there. I recorded a recent episode actually on my podcast about consistency and how, if we just do things haphazardly and sporadically, there's almost no point. It's like going to the gym every now and again. Why? You're not going to get the same results than if you actually even just did a 20-minute walk every day. Like just one thing simply consistently has a much bigger impact. But with all this noise, everyone's marketing. So you're gonna have somebody going, this thing is dead, don't do this anymore, this is the way, but that's because that's the thing that they sell and that they're an expert in. And it doesn't make them wrong, but it is their marketing. And then somebody else will have their idea and their idea and their idea. And the thing is you could pick five of these and find that behind it is a really successful, amazing person, which makes you want to listen to them. They did it. It's great for them. I need to listen to that. But what happens is people get, like you say, paralyzed by the confusion of all the things. I need to do that. Oh, no, wait, that. Oh, actually, and that. Wait, hang on. And before you know it, you're like, and you stop and you freeze up and you do nothing because none of it feels good enough and you don't know how you can do any one of those things consistently anyway. And I love that you just went, just stop, literally just breathe and go, one thing that you know you can do, just do that consistently, that feels good, that doesn't feel like it's rigid and um what's the word, like laborious, and because you won't do it. It needs to be something that flows from you. And I think if you do that, you're leaning into who you really are anyway. So it's gonna land better.
Yeah. I truly believe in the energy of things as well, like the energy
Mm,
around creating a podcast, the energy around a piece of content, the energy around a live stream. And I think sometimes when you're doing it because you feel like you should, and you're like, oh, I should do this, so I'm going to tick the box, and then I'm going to be a professional because I've given 3 tips on how to grow your business, it just is going to feel forced and flat. And quite frankly, you are never going to create like incredible results from forced and flat energy and forced and flat actions. Whereas suddenly when I was just taking people behind the scenes, I was like, it's almost like I was vlogging my day, if that makes sense, or like what I was
mm,
up to. It was just building that connection again.
yeah,
I literally went into Q3 with the kind of strategy of vulnerable visibility. I was
yeah,
storytelling, I was taking people behind the scenes of my comeback, and it just felt good and it felt easier, but it built that connection again. And I think because I was kind of getting myself out there again, plus doing my morning routine every single day again, the
mm,
byproduct of that was blowing up my income. But
yeah.
that wasn't just, do these X pieces of content and post this and post at this time. It was just like post whatever, whenever, and get myself into the right frame of mind every single day. And it worked. But again, that's my way and that worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah, but how blissful is that though? Because it's real and people want real now. I don't know about you, but I know I have, and I'm sure lots of listeners have worked with coaches or signed up to a program and gone, I'm a really good student and I will do as I'm told and I will follow these steps. And I've worked with some people who I would, really rate and say are great human beings, but because I was lost at the time, I went, okay, well, whatever she says, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But then I'm being told what to do. And even so, I'm okay with throwing a camera in my face and speaking to it. But when I'm speaking someone else's script, someone else's strategy, someone else's idea, it's wooden, it's awkward. I'm like, wait, what am I saying? Yeah, but what, why? What's the, like, it feels so forced. And like, even when you have social media managers that are doing this for you, it's great to delegate. But if they're giving you, this is everything you've got to go and do, it's not your content really. And I find that so forced. And of course, it doesn't land. But when it's completely yours, when it's coming from inside of you, I call it like the whole. This happened to me once. I was called to the Good Morning Britain studios. I had to go the night before. It was last minute. It always is. I was going to be on that sofa in the morning, and I was going to be like a camera there. It's live TV. And I wasn't fazed by that because I know my stuff. So I was like, it doesn't matter what they ask me. I know I know that the answer will just come from me. And I think if you can't do that or be that and it's too contrived almost, it's not going to land as well anyway, and it will feel forced. But yeah, this is where I think the landscape with coaching, and I think if you've got like lots of coaches and consultants and people like that in service businesses that listen, I would really start to work on your craft as a great coach and consultant, because a really good coach will unlock you, not tell you what to do. It's such a different thing. And if they're telling you what to do, right, here's what you need to do and here's the strategy, that's not what a coach does. That's the teacher. And
Yeah.
there's a place for that. If you need to learn, I don't know, how to do this thing with technology, you need someone to show you, that's fine. But if it's coaching you're looking for, a good coach will peel back those layers and help you pull you out into the surface. And that's the magic.
Yes, 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 absolutely. I'm nodding away like a mad thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yes, this is so true. And it's such an important reminder and such a powerful conversation. I always love to think like, what is the one thing that I could talk about with no prep? And I always try and kind of invite my clients to lean into that as well. And for me, it's like mindset. Like I know all the science, I know all the facts, I know all the stats, I know brainwaves,
Yeah.
I know like all of these things. I've got stories, personal stories, client stories. You could give me a microphone and I could speak all day on a stage about mindset. Like that is
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
And I always say to my clients, what is your thing? What is the thing that you're so passionate about, that you embody, that you live by, that you are just like a living, breathing example of this work? Like if you cut me open, it would literally
Yeah.
be mindset for business owners right in there, right in my
Yeah.
heart. And I'm like, that's the thing. But again, it's finding each person's way. And sometimes it takes trial and error. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it takes exploration and trying these new things to really work out what your way is. But I think
Yeah.
as soon as you know that and you are embodying that and you live by that, again, I feel the content becomes easier because you're
It
not
does.
trying to fit into this mold of this is how you should be, this is how you should show up. Because you're like, well, I'm just going to talk about what I live, breathe, embody, and what I am every single day. And it
And
gets yeah.
it's not always what you think either.
No,
Because if you started a business from a place of, you touched on this before, but if you've gone after money and if you've gone, this is the thing that's going to make me the money, you're then forcing yourself to be and share and stand for that thing. If you don't really, or if that's not your real thing. So I love the way you've described that. And yeah, what would, if you cut yourself open, what would pour out? Like, what would be your thing that you can talk about with no prep? And if you can get under the skin of that, like you described earlier when you said, when I just started doing that, the money came in abundance more than ever, but that's because it was coming from that place of, the intention wasn't the money comes as it's the, what's
yeah,
the law? Law of precession. Like you
yeah,
head there, it will come anyway,
yeah,
rather than head straight for it. And I firmly believe that. And I think the people who do really, really well, do really, really well because they are so passionate about what they're doing. They live and breathe it, they embody it, they stand for it. Um, then yeah, the revenue comes naturally. Yes, you need a bit of business strategy and a bit of business savvy. I'm not going to deny that, but it's secondary.
yeah. And again, I think people feel that. They always say that the truth is the strongest frequency. And people
Mm,
will feel what is your truth on social media. People will feel that conviction, they'll feel that potency, they'll feel that confidence. They'll feel that through your storytelling, through your content, through your case
yeah.
studies, through when you share a testimonial. And I think there's a massive difference, and people really need to have this discernment. There's a massive difference between knowing something and
Mm,
being something. People
yes.
can know how to have a good mindset. They can know how to manifest. They can know how to feel abundant. But there's a massive difference between the knowing and the being of it, embodying it, living by it. And sometimes I think that shift actually has a massive shift in the strategy. It has a massive shift in the in the content because people are suddenly like, oh, I feel something. You know, people feel drawn to something. They feel magnetized by something. Feelings don't lie. And I think sometimes
Definitely.
there's a massive kind of conversation that needs to be had between that embodiment piece and that identity piece between knowing and being.
Definitely. Like, be times do equals have. Like, if you can do the do all day long, and what you'll have will be a result of the do, but you need the be times. And so, yeah, who you're being in all of that doing is where the outcome will, and it will change. I think it will change what the doing is. And even this can change. I believe it changes in seasons of our life. So the things that I was absolutely passionate about and could have stood on a stage and talked all day about, 10 years ago are different today. Naturally, that's evolution, that's normal. Um, and I think it's important to recognize that change and that development, that we are always growing. And it would be honestly a bit weird if I was still talking at the exact same level of passion as something, 10 years, 20 years ago, because that would have meant I haven't grown in any way. So I think it does shift and it does evolve, because we do. And when people say to you, "Oh wow, you're so passionate about that," "Oh, you really light up when you talk about that," you know you're like, "Oh, okay." There's a clue there. So if people are like, "How do you know? How do you know?" That's how you know when people reflect that back to you. Mm.
I had a conversation with one of my clients at my retreat recently about the kind of ability and the power and the fact that it's okay to change your mind. You know, she started
Mm.
her business just over a year ago now, and we mapped out this whole kind of launch strategy. She wanted to offer a set number of things, and she's launched something, and now she's like, it just doesn't feel good anymore. I'm like, well, then stop it. You
Yeah.
haven't tied people into like a massive long contract. If it doesn't feel good, you get to change your mind. And
Mm.
we will start to change our minds, I think, as we grow and as we evolve. You
Yeah.
know, what I used to talk about even 5 years ago might not be what I talk about now. Actually, no, I was definitely
Hmm.
talking about mindset and business 5 years ago. But like when I started my business, I was PR and marketing. I would never imagine that I'd go into mindset coaching or business coaching. I had no idea that that even existed.
Yeah.
I think it's so freeing to kind of know that and that we are on this continual journey. I think one of the things that I love most about being an entrepreneur is this opportunity that we get to continually pivot and elevate and innovate and try new things, and we're constantly refining. I absolutely love that. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I love that too. I do. And I think that that's one of the true entrepreneurial traits. So I talk about this a lot. Like, there's a difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur, in my opinion. And lots of people describe these as different things. Some people say you're an entrepreneur when you have multiple businesses. I don't know. I think it's more of a inner thing and a personality. But um, you get, and you're usually quite creative, and creatives don't stay still. Like, as creatives, we're constantly wanting to create more and new and different and trying things a different way. But what I do think is that quite often with all our evolutions or pivots or, reinventions, quite often, and you can't see it forward, you can only see it when you look back, the joining the dots backwards thing. But you'll start to spot when you get into those wisdom years, you look back and go, oh yeah, I can see that golden thread that was always running through all those things. And I know that for me, when I look back, so I remember being at a Tony Robbins, I think it was Date with Destiny event in 2009, somewhere in the US. And we had to do a poster, and I can't remember all the pieces of this. It's a long time ago, but I do remember at the top. So there were certain elements you had to put in this poster, but at the top was ultimately it was your purpose. And I was quite young then, but my purpose, and I've got this poster somewhere. I think it's in the attic. It was something around inspiring other people to rise and be their best. It was something around that. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't, like, I articulated it back then, and it's still prevalent today. And it's obviously part of my core calling and who I am. But when I look back over my businesses and, all the different things I've done, my first work in being in business for myself was when I was 18, but with I haven't had any employed role since I was 21. So I've been, going it in the business world a long time, but it was in the entertainment space back then. And as a performer, and I think, and then that, turned into an agency, and I was creating shows and acts and bringing other talent in and nurturing that other talent. It was never just about me. It was never the Lucy show. I knew what I could do, but I didn't want to do that all by myself. It was all about that collective. Um, so even when I look back, even that, what we created together was it uplifted other people, it brought joy, it brought community, it brought connection. And you look at that all the way through seasons, and it was when my little ones were really, really little, under two, that I was immersed in that world. And naturally the business that came from through that time in the parenting space fitted really well. But still it was about these people are exhausted. They could be thriving, but they're not. They're walking around like muddled up zombies. I want them to be loving this time in life with their little ones. How can I help them so they can enjoy this part of their life? It wasn't about like, oh, people need sleep. I can sell that. I can bottle that and sell that. It wasn't that. It was they are, the pinpoint moment, and the girl will probably know, but the key worker at the kids' nursery said to me, I've got this mum and she hasn't slept in 2 years. Gosh, she needs to do what you did. And it was just a passing comment, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And I went, right, that's it. And the 10-minute journey home, I was like, right, the business is thriving. My husband can run it without me. I'm going to do this now because the world needs me, And it was just one of those, I've got to do this. I can't see these people suffer when they could be thriving. And so when I look back over all the things, it's always been there. But you only get that with the power of hindsight. So I think that people who may be listening and they're in their 20s thinking, oh yeah, well, I'm not in my 40s yet and I can't look back and see all of this. My advice would be trust, literally trust your inner wisdom. It's there. It's guiding you, it's softly nudging you. And those little whispers that you can't let go, the ones that you go, yeah, no, I can't do that, I haven't got time. When it keeps coming back and it won't leave you alone, that's when you know that it's something you're supposed to lean into.
Oh, I got goosebumps. So powerful. Thank you for sharing. So let's rewind a little bit then. So when you had that conversation in the playground and you're like on that 10-minute journey home, you're like, right, this is the thing. What was your mindset back then? What were like the thoughts that you had? Was there any self-doubt, imposter syndrome? Was there anything coming up, or were you just like,
No,
let's go?
I didn't. And maybe it was, I don't know if you get more imposter syndrome as you get older, or I don't know though, maybe not. No, I knew I had to learn a few things. I knew that I had to get some credentials around it because it's not something you can just make up or wing. And there are people out there that will sell those kinds of services purely from experience. Oh, I had 4 kids, and oh, so I must know about this. And it's like, no, there are some things you need to learn. And I did like 3 really thorough training courses, and then other bits of self-study to kind of accumulate as much as I could. Again, I wouldn't just do one training course and go, that's the way, because there are lots of ways. So I accumulated lots and lots of information. And I actually found I had a bit of a natural flair anyway, that instinctively I was like, this is good. But it was how I transferred that information and shared it. And I've realized now that that's one of my strengths. So even when I'm helping somebody in business or whatever it is, my ability to take an idea, a concept that could be quite complicated, but to articulate it in a way that makes sense, but that also empowers, that's my thing. That's literally my thing. And so I was doing that. But no, when I had that idea and I drove home, the first thought was, but I've just been building this other business for so long, I can't walk away. And then I thought, well, I don't need to walk away because it was fully managed and operating with a team. My husband was a co-director by then. And I was like, I could not be there and it will still work and generate the same level of revenue. So what am I doing? My first thought was, well, why have I already not either just become a stay-at-home mum or and saved the nursery fees or started something else? Because we don't both need to have all our eggs in one basket. So that was kind of a no-brainer. And then yeah, I need to learn a few things and then let's go. And I made that decision and was like, yes, let's do it. Didn't look back.
Quite interesting. I hosted a training in one of my free experiences recently, and I was talking about self-belief at different levels in business. I was like, when I started my business, I didn't know anything about mindset. I didn't know anything about self-belief, but I kind of had this just drive inside of me that I was like, I'm just going to make it work. I don't want a job again. I don't want a boss again. I'm just going to make it work. And it's almost like as you kind of progress and then you've got more results, you've got more eyes on you, you've had bigger launches. I almost felt that the self-belief was more challenged at that level, because it kind of felt like, you've celebrated a big launch on social media. The next launch is like, well, are people watching? Are they actually really like
Yeah.
wanting to pick it apart? Are they wanting to see what you do? And it just felt like there was kind of more pressure, external pressure, that then actually could knock that self-belief. And I found that quite interesting actually as I kind of progressed through the years.
Yeah, and I think with the bigger visibility and impact, you also get more backlash and negativity. And I think that that can knock you and it can I've seen it happen to so many people and it's happened to me and it can, yes, it can knock your confidence. It makes you question yourself, especially if you are a person of high integrity. You do naturally question yourself and I think it's an admirable quality to go, well, wait a second, is it me, and not always assume it's everything else out there. um but likewise, with bigger impact and visibility comes that, and you only have to look at any highly visible, highly successful person, or even famous people, and you look at the knocks that they have, and some of them they get death threats, they get the most awful things. Big names like Taylor Swift, and even like Mr. Beast, or anybody that's got a huge public profile gets probably a large amount of ugliness that comes their way. And so I think you do have to some extent, develop a thick skin, and learn to filter that out and understand that it's not about you, usually. And just double check yourself and make sure, like, okay, no, I'm operating in integrity. This isn't actually about me. Um, and you have to sort of get tunnel vision to that and tune into all of the positives that you're making an impact in. Um, but I think that can definitely challenge self-belief. It doesn't take a lot, and some people are more resilient to that than others. But I would say that yeah, in business, if you plan on making a big impact and being visible as a person, you got to expect that.
Yeah. I remember when I started my business, I was bullied by an industry expert, and I think she was probably threatened by the fact that I had suddenly like sprung on the scene. And I
Yeah.
knew nothing about mindset at the time. I knew nothing about self-belief at the time. This was like 2016, 2017. And I thought in that moment I've got two choices. I either back down and I shy away from posting and showing up, or I'm going to create something massive and epic. And I chose the latter. And
Yes.
I think that was such a good mindset to adopt, but it would have been really easy for me to just shy away, stop posting, doubt myself, feel
Yeah.
like what she was saying was true. Would have been so easy for that to happen. But we
Yeah.
got to recognize that actually what happens outside of us isn't actually any of our business. And actually, we can't control what people say. We can't control what people think. We can't control how people react and respond to us. We can only control how we react to that thing. I was
Mm.
at a launch a couple of weekends ago. I did like an early bird launch for the 25 finale, which is like my end of the year like sprint program. And I was sharing like on Instagram story, all these people were signing up, and I was like, if you want momentum, if you want to end the year strong, this is the program to be in. And somebody replied saying, this must be a scam. You can chat GPT how to grow a business. And I was like, oh, sweetie, good luck in life. But, I laughed about it. I'm going to turn it into a piece of content. But again, that could have knocked somebody from showing up. And I was like, okay, well, that action, that one DM made me think, okay, I'm going to post another time about this offer. And 24 people signed up in like 48 hours.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, you don't get my vibes on ChatGPT, that's for sure.
No, and this is the thing. Like one of my favorite ways of saying this at the moment is and I've shared this in my businesses, like you can chat GPT anything that, and information is available in abundance for free, not just through chat GPT. We've had it for a long time on YouTube and Google, and before all of that, the library. Like you can get information, of course you can. No one, there are people with great books. I've got a library of them here that will say, and even my own book that I wrote in the sleep industry, I'm like, this has got everything in it. All the answers are here. And if you can utilize and implement this by yourself, go for it. And people have. And they've written to me and told me it's changed their life. It's brilliant. But lots of us need more than that. And we need the little hand holding and the nudging and the nuances and the eyes on things that we can't see. But again, this is where true coaching and support and service businesses are going to, it's going to filter out now, and the great ones will prevail, because you can't get from ChatGPT what you don't know to ask it. You can only ask it what you know in your brain is a question, but you don't know the questions, because if you're really stuck, you don't know the questions. The questions are what the coach brings. And that's what makes a great coach. So, I say this to even like parents with sleep challenges. They can say, how do I get my 2-year-old to stay in bed beyond 5 a.m.? And ChatGPT will give them some amazing answers. I'm sure it will give them some great suggestions. It will probably give them some of mine. But that's probably not the right question to ask. And they'll get that information and they'll go and try those things and they'll still be stuck. Why? Because that wasn't the question. But, somebody like myself would go, right, okay. And I'll go through all these things. I'll get to the bottom of what's actually causing that wake up by asking better questions. And then we'll get to the answer. So, yeah. But when people put those little stabs on content like that on social media, I'm glad that you smiled and it revved you up and made you go faster. And I think that's a really important message, because too many people would go, oh, wait, well, maybe I should change my entire business model then, because one person's just said that it's not needed anymore. So forget this, and the self-doubt creeps in. But yeah, I always say nobody who's doing better than you will ever try to tear you down unless they're threatened
Yeah.
that you're about to come and pip them to the post.
And that was such a great example that you shared. I think like a business example might be putting into ChatGPT or other search engines and AI things are available. Something like, how do I launch this offer? Well, yes, it's going to give you some great ideas and some great strategies, but it's not taking into consideration your mindset, your self-belief, your money relationship and your money mindset, which is an incredibly important conversation.
Yeah.
It's not taking into consideration your brand awareness. It's not taking into consideration how hot your audience is and how connected they are with you, how you feel about sales, how you feel about launching. Like it doesn't take into the equation all of these identity pieces. And I'm like, you can't be working with somebody to do those things, because they're going to get to the root of you. They're going to
Yeah.
like the core of you, as we spoke about earlier, and they're going to really see how you can create the best launch. But
Hmm.
just chat GPTing it, or worse, if you're just trying to copy how somebody you look up to does it, people could try and launch in the way that I launch, and it won't work for them because they haven't got
Hmm.
the mindset, they haven't got the hot audience. They aren't launching in the right way for them. I love to launch the way I launch, and it works, and I love it, and it feels magnetic and just incredible. But that won't work for everybody. And again, I think
Hmm.
that real important coach and mentor and client relationship that I think when it gets built over time can create the most incredible results.
Hmm. I think people can take inspiration from others, and I think people could, go back, Tara, tell me how you launch. Like, less like, give me your like framework and what works for you. And I think that's great. I was at a recent brunch with some great women in business, and they were sharing, right, this is what's really working for me right now. And it was so good to listen to what's working for them. But I think that you've got to listen to those things with uh interest and curiosity, but not with, right, okay, then I need to do exactly what they did. It's like, that's really interesting. Oh, I might incorporate an element of that. That might be useful too. It's about learning and tailoring and bespoking. So yes, we can learn from each other, and yes, we can share great ideas and what's working and what's shifting and what's changing. But I think it is about taking those things as learnings and development, and then crafting your own. Um, yeah, absolutely. It's the essence, isn't it? It's that human essence of who you are in that kind of business in space. Yeah.
So what's working for you then this year? What's been something that's really helped your business grow this year?
Oh, that this year's been an interesting one. So I was just yesterday talking to someone about this, and they said, "Oh, how's work?" And I'm like, business for me this year, or me personally this year, has been a massive growth and pivotal change within myself. So, one of the biggest things that has worked for me this year is appointing somebody else as managing director and to hand over the reins of my baby that I've built for the last nearly 12 years, because I was very aware of how much it was still consuming me, no matter how great a team I had built. My team are amazing, and that's not come easily. That's years of not so great people, or people who were great people but perhaps weren't quite the right skill set, all these things you learn and as you go, or hiring somebody because you really like them but actually you find that your skills are higher in that area than theirs, you know. So looking at my team but then going, okay, now I have this great team, how do I remove myself from so many moving parts and only be what that business really needs me to be for it, getting out of its way. And I wouldn't say that that's all done, signed, sealed, and delivered. There's a few loose ends that I'm still working through there. But what that has done is it's allowed me to really work out where my focus needs to be. And when I'm looking at other things and going, I'm not feeling like I'm getting this done, and I feel frustrated, I've been able to identify why that is. Overwhelm only comes from having too many unplanned things to do, like unscheduled. So it's like, well, how do you make the room to do the things that really are fulfilling and that really light you up and that are really going to move the needle? So it's for me, it's been almost a pause year. I will call it a pause year of not like I'll go 1,000 miles an hour. Once I know what I want, I've got a bee in my bonnet and I know where I'm going. I'll do a year's worth of work in a week, I go fast. But you can't it's hard for someone like me to slow down, but just to slow right down and stop, look at the full landscape, reevaluate, and trust that it will kind of come in when it's supposed to. We don't get to decide that all the time. Um, so for me, I would say the most impactful thing I have done is nurture my MD so that I know that that business doesn't have to dwindle. It can thrive even probably better than ever because it will have that new lease of life. Um, Pause on some of the things that I thought I should do. And even things like, oh, I need this model and I need to create this thing or this thing. And even recently I've gone, wait a second, that's not it. That's not it. And now I know why. So trusting there's a reason sometimes that you need to take that time. Um, I think that's been one of my biggest learnings of this year is pause, trust, breathe. Um, and then you have a go again. And I think you probably have years like that. You have build years, you have push years, scale years, you have reflect years. Like you just, yeah,
Yeah, I love that. I think actually even taking it down to like a more of a micro level, you have months, months
yeah,
nurturing your audience, months when you're launching and putting yourself out there, months
yeah,
when you've had the launch and then you're serving all the clients. And it's all
yeah,
seasons of life and business. But I think the more we have that awareness over which season we're in, the better our
yeah.
mind's going to be because we're not beating ourselves up because we're not doing X, Y, and Z. Because we're like, this is the season that I'm in right now, and then you go with it. But yeah, I love that. And again, I think that links back then, doesn't it, to that entrepreneur conversation. You took stock, you looked at what was working, what isn't working, looking at the things you thought you should be doing and be like, actually, no, that's not aligned. And again, it's that continual
Mm.
refinement and evolution of building a brand.
And I think a real key piece of that, like to conclude that, is why. Really look at why, because sometimes, and I live by the mantra that just because I could doesn't mean I should. A lot of us are multifaceted, like multi-skill, multi-dimensional, and we can do all the things. And then we're told we've got to pick a lane, which is really restrictive for someone like me.
Yeah.
And we're like, I don't want to pick a lane. But actually, think about why. Like, do you need another qualification or another thing? Like, a lot of people are creating businesses that actually are a job. And it's like, do you want to give yourself that job? is that the job you want? Like, we want to do something, but what is it you want to do? And if what you actually want to do is be there for every sports match your kids have, walk the dog and go and have coffee with your friends at lunchtime, then you want to build a business that can run without you. And that might look really different to taking that credential and becoming that skill or doing that therapy practice, because that's a job. So if that is what you want to do, amazing. But check in with yourself, check the why behind your actions and the type of business you want to create. And if it is that business that that I have no reservations about creating your own job. Back when I wanted to be on the stage and create these shows, I was like, well, I just will. I don't need to do an audition and get someone to cast me as the next member of Girls Aloud. I'm just going to create a tribute act, So create the job you want by all means and do the thing you're passionate about. But just check that that actually is, so that you don't end up later looking back going, I'm now a slave to this and I can't get out. So I think that's really important. Think about why.
Yeah. And that I think every single person's vision of success and what they want to create is so unique to them. I
Exactly.
work so much. I haven't had a day off since June, and I'm not like saying that that's the way to do it. It's just because I'm in this era of just loving my business so much that even on a
Yeah.
weekend, I'm like, well, I'm just going to do an hour. And I like
Yeah.
plan things, or I get creative, or I write sales page copy, or anything like that.
Yeah.
But that's my way. I don't have kids or a partner right now, so I can literally do whatever I want whenever I want to.
Yeah.
For somebody else, they might think that sounds like hell, and they want to work for 2 hours a day, Monday to Friday. Like,
Yeah.
perfect. It all gets to work. But again,
Hmm.
bring it back to, what is in alignment with you, what is in integrity with you,
Yeah.
and what is your vision of success. And I think that's such an important reminder.
Yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much for this incredible, incredible conversation. I've absolutely loved it.
Me
Where
too.
can our gorgeous listeners connect with you on social media?
Oh, do you know the best place really to connect with me is on Instagram? I am Lucy Shrimpton is my handle. And I run that account. There's no managers on there, so drop me a message. And sorry if you get an automated DM, but I will see it and I will jump in. But that's the best place.
Amazing. I'll pop the link in the show notes. Lucy, thank you so much for being here and sharing your brilliance and your knowledge. It's been incredible, and I know it's going to help so many people. So a huge thank you.
You're welcome.